What is happening, guys? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. That's right, guys. And we have the whole cast for you today. Just like Brant and I promised. It's never guaranteed, but we still promised anyway. Yeah. And it's going to be a great show. There is a lot to talk about. You know how there's some weeks where there's no news? Well, this week we got a ton of news to talk about. We're
All
going to talk
DC.
about a lot of DC stuff. Like most of it's DC. We got comics to talk about and everything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that audience and we're going to talk about the comics first. Then we'll get into the news. So hopefully you guys will stick with us through the whole entire time. And we're going to kick it off. But first, I want to just introduce or reintroduce Kat Kamaguno.
Hello, guys. I'm back. Only 1 week. I promise. I wasn't gone for too long.
And then, of course, we have Brant Fowler.
What's up, everybody?
So, you guys excited about all this news that we're going to talk about later? There's a lot.
I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to I'm excited to talk about it.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, So let's get into the comics so we can get into that comic news and here we go. So we're going to talk about once again the return of Saga. So we're on issue 61 of this book, and honestly, I was going to drop this title after this issue.
You're going to drop Saga?
Listen. I was until I got to that last page. Okay.
That's just crazy. You even had the thought of dropping Saga. That's crazy to me.
I waited 5 years for a series to come back, and then it went on hiatus again, and it's been gone for, when was the last issue? It was like a while.
It was a couple of months ago. It was definitely last year. Let me see. This is Saga issue 65.
Yeah, 61.
Okay, so
61.
61. Okay,
So
let's see when 60 come out. It looks like it was July. So it was a couple of months. But it was it's been half a year.
Couple of months. August, September, October, November, December, and January.
Handful of months. That's a handful of months.
So that's the problem. Like, I got hyped up for it to come back, just got back into the story, takes 6 months off. They raised it $1, and it's like, I don't have that hype for it anymore. Like, how am I going to be into these characters and into this story if we're going to take this type of break, right? And then you get introduced that Marco could be coming back. Like, he could be brought back to life. And that got me into the story again. So if they can keep the momentum of the story, then I'll continue to read it. But I'm not going to continue to invest all my time into a book that's going to be taking multiple breaks. I thought the whole reason why they took that huge break was so they can finish the story and keep it coming out, not to take another half a year off. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I feel about it. I thought the story was okay in this return issue. But the part that made it for me was the cliffhanger.
I mean, the cliffhanger definitely made it. I will say this issue was a little lukewarm until we got to that. It was a solid issue for me because the art is also just phenomenal. So even when the story is like, okay, you just look at the beautiful art and be like, all right, this is a good book. But it's Brian K. Vaughan. Like I trust him as a writer. He really has never ever disappointed me. I think he's great with the twists and turns. So there are times when it's a little slow and there's a handful of months that it's off. I don't think I'll ever drop Saga. I do want to see it end at some point because it is a very long series. But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, let's just hope. Let's hope that it just keeps that momentum. That's what it's like. Kick-Ass for us. Remember, it's just like Kick-Ass was that great story, and it took forever for it to finish, to conclude.
I feel like this is so much better than Kick-Ass because I feel like Kick-Ass the movie is better than Kick-Ass the comic. Like, even though I agree.
Comic. Yeah, I agree. I'm just comparing it like the release schedule. It's just like you want to come out a comic to come out consistently on a regular basis, and you just get frustrated. Like The Last Ronin, for example, right? That book came out. It took months for it to come out. And it's just like you love the book, but the frustrating thing is it just you get tired of it waiting for it. And then it's like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to drop it. And then maybe I'll just read it in a trade or a compendium, So that's the way you got to look at it. Not that it's a horrible story. It's hard to remember things of what happens when it doesn't come out on a regular basis. So that's the only reason why I would drop it. Not because it's not a bad story. So. All right. So guys, we got a lot of people on. So thank you so much. Like we said, for everyone that's coming on, we're talking about comics first. We're going to build the audience. Once we get through the comics, we'll get through that DC news. Promise. And I'm sure we'll have lots of discussion about that. Okay. All right. So let's move on. We're going to talk about a DC comic book this week. We all read this one. This is Action Comics issue 1051. This is like urban legends, you could say now, but in the Action Comics form. You got the first story from Philip Kennedy Johnson. The second story was done by Dan Jurgens, right? And then you had the third story, which was the Power Girl story, which continued off of the Dawn of DCU one shot, which I hated that story. That story is
it didn't get better in this issue either. It didn't get better in this issue.
No, there's too much. It's not necessary. Yeah. But the first two stories I actually enjoyed. You get to see the whole house at the, and you get to see all the new super people, the Superman family in the first story. And then the other story, you go back in time to when John is a young kid. And I thought, and it goes back to that Doombreaker stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So I thought this was a good book. I think I'm going to continue reading it.
No, I guess it was Brant.
Okay, yeah. I think the first story, the main story, was decent. I love the reintroduction to all the Superman family. I love seeing them all together. I'm not totally invested in the Metallo plot. Hopefully it gets stronger from here, but we didn't get a whole lot of that momentum and forward movement in this issue for that. I did really enjoy So I did really enjoy the John Young story because that, it continues from the Death of Superman anniversary special. It's taken us back to a story that we all really liked, which was Lois and what was it called? Was it Superman and Lois or Lois and Clark? I don't remember what it was called. But anyway,
one of those.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
I liked it too. That was like when Peter J. Tomasi was writing it.
Right.
No, I think Dan Jurgens was writing.
Maybe.
I think that Dan Jurgens wrote that too, because he wrote that story. So
did he write that little run there?
He might.
I think so. I thought it was him.
But I like that. At the same time, it's like we're not ever going to get that back unless they do like just a little mini series here and there. So it's like it's almost like just kind of teasing us with something that we're not going to get.
Right.
But then the Power Girl story, I don't like it at all, and I felt like it was incredibly exposition heavy. It was a lot of information we probably didn't need, and I just I didn't love the story overall. But anyway, as a whole package, I think it's got promise. I don't think it's quite there yet.
I 100% agree. I think it's kind of just there. And I feel that about a lot of Superman stories. So I was just like, I've seen this before. And also the thing that makes me not want to pick up the next issue is that this anthology format's going to be every issue of Action Comics. It's not going to be one story. So I'm like, I don't need that. I read Batman Urban Legends and I like Batman more, and I dropped that. Unless there's a phenomenal story that will break Superman, there's no need for me to read it, honestly, especially because we have Superman issue 1 coming out. And that's so far the only Superman story I've liked in a while was that Joshua Williamson story from wherever he published that. There was a short story with him a couple of weeks ago that like did the little prelude to his series, and just the stuff coming out of his series. I'm like, oh, I'm excited for that. It seems like he understands Superman. It feels different, but classic enough, kind of like his Robin run. So I will give Superman more of a chance there than continuing to try Action Comics and drop it every single time.
Yeah, I'll stick with this story for the main story for a little bit, But if it doesn't get better and there's not more movement in it, then yeah, it's going to be the same thing that happens to me with Superman as well. And I tend to stick with it for a little bit and then just get discouraged with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you guys. I can deal with those first 2 stories. I won't have an issue with it is if like it continues on for a little while and it tells an overall story that means something. My thing is like if it changes stories like every single issue, like then I will truly get discouraged.
I think it's continuing. So I think it is a Batman Urban Legends where it's going to be like a 3 or 4 issue arc and then they'll do another character.
It's just I think Batman Urban Legends had I felt like it had more than 3 stories.
Eventually, like at first, I think Batman Urban Legends, it was that main story was a consistent story for a while, and then at some point, it started veering off and started alternating stories and doing weird stuff, and that's when it lost me, and I dropped it.
Right. So. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with it. For me, that Power Girl thing, it's like we're changing that character, or like she's becoming like psychic, like a Jean Grey. And now it's like, oh, because we have these powers, now I gotta change my outfit too. You know what I'm saying?
That's not even what bothered me though. It was just the exposition in it, and it was like being told the entire history of Omen and getting a psychological evaluation. That's what it felt like. I'm reading a textbook. That's what it felt like reading that story.
It also felt like, hey, I'm going to try to fit in an entire 22-page comic book in like 6 pages.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right. Well, let's move forward then. Let's talk about Sins of Sinister. Kat didn't even buy it, man.
You didn't miss anything, honestly. Yeah. You were right. That was the right call.
I actually liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Then.
I liked it. I was afraid I wasn't going to like it, but I did enjoy it because it's like almost I would hope, and if they go through with it, I would hope that it's the beginning of the end of the Krakoan age and the end of the Resurrection Protocols. And in the story, you get the story of how Mr. Sinister has been manipulating or compromising the Resurrection Protocols this entire time. And he is trying to take over the world in his way. And he's been slowly doing it by messing with the X-Men. So this whole entire time, maybe the X-Men are the way they are is because he has a little bit of his DNA inside of every single X-Man. I thought
that's been resurrected anyway. Yeah.
Right. And ever since they were resurrected, which I thought is very creative. I actually like that. There's a lot in that comic book, and you have to be like well aware of what you're reading, I think at times, but I enjoyed the story and how if they think of something here that this leads into the next, X-Men age, right? But it would really piss me off though if whatever happens to Sinister doesn't really happen and then they just go back to the way it was.
Yeah. So I like the concept of Sinister having his DNA in everybody. I thought it was, and I get like the issue that I really liked of, I think it was Immortal X-Men.
Yeah.
That was Kate Pryde leading the charge and all that. And that's where this started. And we got that, history of him dealing with Moira clones and going back and changing, back and forth in time and all that stuff to lead to this. I thought that was really good. And it planted the seeds for what could have been a really good event, in my opinion. I felt like this issue, though, it was too sinister forward, which I get the irony of saying that with it being called, what it is.
About all the stuff that happened in it.
Yeah.
Like and how everything was like happened in one page.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just like, oh, here's my whole master plan. And I've done all this in this short time. And now all the X-Men are under my control except for Storm. And now I'm, the greatest mutant of all time because I'm controlling, the puppet strings of everybody. And it felt too easy, even though the lead up showed that it was like a process, and he kept resetting.
See, wouldn't it have been better though if they actually like took this time to build up this event?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if we had gotten like a year of little hints at Sinister pulling the strings here and there, and seeing that move forward, and that wouldn't have made this feel so abrupt for me. And I felt like the abruptness mixed with a lot of inner monologue and a lot of splash pages with caption boxes trying to catch you up on everything that Sinister's been up to, it would have made it more palatable for me, I guess.
Right. No, totally get it. So are you going to continue reading it though?
I mean, it's going to continue in all the books, right?
Right.
Or is it? Yeah.
Well, they have their own, like, I think Storm has her own book coming out.
Yeah. Okay.
And stuff.
I don't remember the checklist. I didn't.
Yeah, I was looking. I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to see. But I felt this was like, even though it wasn't perfect, I do feel like I really enjoyed it, and I feel like this is probably one of the best X-Men things I've read in quite a while. Like, it's very creative, I felt.
Yeah. I am it is continuing in Immortal X-Men, and they're also doing Immoral X-Men and Nightcrawlers, and a bunch of one-shots and stuff like that, and the Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants series. I don't know. I guess it's going to depend on the weeks, and I'll see.
Yeah. Got a super chat here from the name changes.
Thank you.
$15 Canadian. Says finally got a Tuesday off to watch the show live, which is awesome. So thank you so much. And he said, read more X-Men. We struggle with that here on this show these days, but we always try, right?
Yeah. We also got another super chat, it looks like.
Yeah, we got another one here from Frank. He says, I like the idea of erasing the reincarnation, but then it jumped all over the place. That's what Brant was talking about, and Professor X was able to diminish his hold. So, yeah, at the end of it, you wind up seeing Mr. Sinister. Something happened to, like, his lab and everything else, and what's up with that, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was so much diminishing his hold as Sinister's base personality coming out in all of them, and Sinister, by definition, is untrustworthy and doesn't trust anybody and will always do something to benefit only himself. So if a little piece of him is in all the X-Men, they're all going to be out for themselves.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to collapse in on itself. And I think that's what that was more.
And I think at the end, that's what he did. He wanted to go out and fix that again.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he wound up finding out that it's like, uh-oh, what the hell happened? So
yeah. So now he's stuck. And my other problem with the story as a whole, aside from if it does change the Krakoan age and kind of end that, is that aside from that, it's really ultimately not going to have a lasting effect on the X-Men, because they're going to fix this. You can't have all of them having Sinister's DNA in them forever.
Yeah, that I agree with, but I do think that the resurrection protocols might be gone, because they would feel like we can't take that risk of someone manipulating them.
That's true, but hopefully they fix it and resurrect one more time so they don't have Sinister.
Exactly. I agree right there, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you guys so much for the super chats. Guys, they're always much appreciated. So if you ever want to throw one in there, just again, we truly appreciate it. Okay. Definitely helps the show. All right.
We also do have a question from Tristan. Are you guys looking forward to Superboy Mana tomorrow? I'm really excited to read a new adventure. So that's the one that was the voting round robin. And I feel like and we'll talk more about Dawn of DC. That's the only one that's not really going to be connected to Dawn of DC. So it's very hard to get excited for those round robins. They're so offshoots. And I'm looking forward to Connor, but after Robins, which I thought was going to be the best title ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm excited.
Ooh, man, I totally forgot about that book.
Yeah. I'll always try a Connor Kemp book, but the same thing you said, Kat. So
All right, so let's move forward now to our number 5. And Kat, what was your number 5 this week?
Mine was JSA issue 2. I don't think it was as strong as issue 1, but and especially because it's just kind of all over the place. But I still feel like this book has a lot of promise. The art is spectacular for this book, and I like the mystery it builds. I like that, and we'll read that super chat in a second. But I like the idea that there feels to be an actual arc being built in this story. I feel like a lot of times with any new run, it's more of like, okay, we got to defeat this one bad guy, and that's kind of it. This feels like it has a long-term plan. It feels like it's building towards something. So I like that idea. You know, if you're a JSA fan, I feel like there's a lot of interesting tidbits here. And I like Helena as a character. I think she's a good lead. She's a good POV. But yeah, it does jump around a lot. So it gets a little confusing in this issue.
It does jump around, but at the same time, I really enjoyed the jumping around, and the jumps made sense. You know,
yeah. They're not Tom King jumps. I remember that. Oh, it was Batman and Catwoman where they jumped from all these different timelines. Like this one made more sense.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously she's traveling through time to begin with the story to, you know, try to save her Justice League or Justice Society, but like Dr. Fate, you know, getting jarred out of his timeline and, you know, and going back and forth makes sense too, because he's a magical character. It fits into the whole story. He's being blocked by a time traveler. It made sense. It didn't feel like all over the place for me. I wasn't confused. And, you know, other books like Batman, Catwoman, you were, if you weren't really paying attention, it could be pretty jarring, but this wasn't. Yeah.
I liked it. It wasn't in my top 5. It was like right outside of it. And it was because like I understood the time jumping, right? But I felt like the time jumping for me like didn't progress the story enough. Because it was like they spent a lot of that there was a couple pages there. It was like, oh, we're gonna go, you know, 13 years later, and 8 years later, and then 6 years later, and it was just like, I get it, I understand. I just wanted something a little bit more out of it. You know what I'm saying? But I still enjoyed it, and I want it's just like I love when I get into a comic book and I want more. It did its job, right? But I was like, man, that's it. That was all I got was, you know, I just wanted a little bit more because it was like she woke up in that time period. She came to the JSA. I started getting into it, and then it was like time jump, and then it was like Dr. Fate, and then it was like, oh, I'm gonna go back. And then we went to Selena, and then we went back, and I'm just like, man, I just want more of one story. You know what I'm saying? So,
okay.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of super chats. So Comic Toby, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker.
Yeah, thanks.
And then also this is a question from Lee Smith, $2 super chat. Thank you so much. What if X-Men started over with a new story? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
So great. Yeah.
Here's the super sticker in case you guys want to see it. Let's see if my camera can focus in. There it is.
Oh, that's cool.
You can see it.
Yeah.
There's some sunglasses happening. Some sunglass action.
Yeah. So funny, dude. Stuff is crazy. Remember YouTube like 10 years ago? None of this crap existed.
So funny enough, I was telling Mike and Brant, I went to go see a movie right before this, which was Missing. And there's like a 10-year, like you get to go see 10 years in the past. And one of the sections of the movie is like seeing old YouTube. And I was like, oh my God, that's so weird to like see old YouTube.
Yeah.
So funny.
Google Hangouts, man.
Yeah, Google
yeah,
Hangouts.
Remember that?
Man. Oh my God. Remember when half the time it wouldn't even work or it'd kick you out all the time?
There's a lot of muting and not being able to hear people. I will say that doesn't happen as often with StreamYard. I feel like not at all, actually.
No, not at all.
Maybe in the very beginning, a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So, Brent, what was your number 5?
Oh, man. I was telling them I was like trying to piece together my top 5 right as we were going live. Before I say what my number 5 is, I just want to say that like I didn't love any of my books this week. Like
I feel you on that.
I understand that.
Which sucks because the week I wasn't here, I enjoyed my books. And this week, literally, if you look at my number 6, it's a 2.5-star book. My number 5 was the first one. I'm like, this is a decent book. And then like I have a couple of solid ones, but
so you know how I said like JLA was like right outside. Mm-hmm. Like I had my 1 through 4 figured out, right? And number 5, I struggled so much. I'm like, is it going to be this book or maybe this book? Is it this book? Nah. I like debated so much because it was like you said, I didn't love any of those books, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's hard because it's like even my top 5, it's like I enjoyed them. I didn't love them. You know, so I'm gonna go with, and I just pieced this together, so I don't even know if it's like what I would actually pick, but Murder World Wolverine is what I went with. So
okay.
I am enjoying the overall series, and I think this was a decent issue. I don't know that it was my favorite issue of the series so far, but it was cool seeing their fear of the Wolverine characters, even though they know they're not the real Wolverines and stuff, and just how brutal the Wolverines got. I mean, one character loses her arm, thanks to a claw schnicked, but
and they kept on saying bub.
Yeah, all of them were bub. Even Laura was like bub. So I mean, this story has been pretty solid, you know, and we learned like at the end of last one, we learned that there were assassins in the mix. In this issue, we learned that there aren't really. It was just a ploy to throw them off, to make them think that they were traitors.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Yeah,
and then you find out that what's his name is in there, like you find out who the heavy hitters are. So you got like Leapfrog, you got that one spy that is in there. That Natasha knew.
Right.
You got the MMA fighter that got her arm, you know. So it's like you're getting to see, and they figured out that the place is all fake. So now they're trying to catch on to Arcade, which was kind of cool. I enjoyed the part where they were sitting in the chair and they had to get their heartbeat down to 60 beats per minute.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. That was something that is so Squid Game like. So I was like,
yeah, exactly. I like that too. And then immediately somebody's like, I can't do it. Boom. Dead. So yeah, it's I am enjoying the series. So
we cool. Also have another super chat, which is by Lee Smith, $2. Thank you so much. X-Men versus X-Force. I mean, for me, X-Men, I've never really liked X-Force, honestly. I know there is that one really great run, the Greg Rucka run from like 15 years ago. But other than that, I've never really cared about X-Force.
This is the person that suggested a new story. Are you saying that's what you want the new story to be?
Oh,
X-Men versus
there you
X-Force?
go.
That could be something too.
That'd be interesting. And what X-Force team do you do?
Right.
Do you do the original X-Force, or do you do a more recent version of the X-Force?
Like a Wolverine version of X-Force? Yeah.
Right.
I like the original X-Force just for nostalgia.
Me too. Put all those characters in there. Put like Shatterstar and freaking Domino and what was Cannonball and all those people. Yeah, that would be cool.
Boom, boom.
I mean, I do like that. As cheesy as it was back then, it was freaking cool, man. It really was.
Although I do like Boom Boom on the Exterminators, so maybe they keep Boom Boom over there.
All right, my number 5 was, and this was the book this was the other book I was like, it wasn't as good as I felt, but I still liked it. It was Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue 3.
Not the strongest issue, but
it wasn't the strongest, but I still appreciate it because I like their relationship.
Yeah.
And
the ending was strong too.
What's that?
And the ending was strong too. But
the ending was strong. You know, it was just like they had this moral dilemma of having someone survive or die, bury him or not bury him. You can see like there's these different morals that these two characters have with each other, you know. And then at the end, you wind up seeing the boy. He winds up wants to be on his own because he wants to see if he can survive on his own in his way. And then he winds up getting captured at the end, or he winds up getting tagged or whatever it was. Again, I just liked this book because of the relationship of these two characters. And then you wind up getting to see him as he's much older, which seems to be flashing back and forth.
Yeah, and cybernetically enhanced, which I thought was a really interesting way to go. And clearly him and Mezzi are not on the same side at that point either, which I thought was also kind of telling. And
Right.
but yeah, it was so up until this issue, it was a lot of character building between the two and building the relationship. And I felt like we got some of that in this issue, but the start of it, like the first third of it, was just a lot of exposition as they were traveling across this world.
Right,
and that
right.
kind of took me out of it a little bit. It wasn't quite as strong, but it ended strong, and I appreciated that.
You got to see her kind of be more moral, like like more human, like. She started watching TV. She started laughing.
Yeah.
You got to see them really starting to have that friendship. And then just as that friendship started to bloom, it's just like things went south,
Yeah.
So
exactly. I did want to answer Tevia's question real quick about Murder World.
Yeah.
As to where it takes place in the, like when. I think it's present day because it's following right off the Black Widow series and what she dealt with Arcade. It's just, all the superheroes are not real. They're like LMDs or androids or something. So
correct. All right. Excuse me.
Let's talk about this series. This is the worst issue.
That Miss Marvel issue, man. Man.
I thought Miss Marvel was better than this one. This is like this was laughable. This is like I didn't.
I'm sorry if we were doing worst books still. This is my worst of the week.
All right, so let me tell the people. So it's Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, you didn't say it yet?
No.
Yeah. So we get the introduction of King Chasm.
King Chasm.
You get more of Rex Rap, which is Parker spelled backwards.
That was the only part I actually kind of liked because
it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what's the point? I don't.
But
care.
there's no
point.
There's no point. There's no point. Ben Reilly is he's a little bitch. It's just like Madeline Pryor.
As it always is.
Madeline Pryor, just like she gets what she wanted, and she's like, Ben, you got to call it off. And he's kind of like, and he's like so non-threatening. He's not like mad or anything. He's just like, oh man, but I'm so close, Madeline. We're getting, I think he's gonna give me those memories back.
Yeah.
And in all previous issues, he was like super angry, evil, and everything else. And it's like his tone is completely changed.
Yet his girlfriend, who just got her powers, is powerful enough to defeat Madeline, take over the underworld, and give it to Ben, just like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
I honestly. It's difficult because Dark Web was very hyped, right? It was just like, it's going to change everything. And I genuinely don't know what the story is anymore. I've lost track. There's no character beats. It's just, I've been very disappointed. There's no point.
So
I don't know what this series is about anymore. I really don't.
Did you read the X-Men book, Kat, or no? The tie-in? No.
I didn't need to read X-Men.
So like in the X-Men book, she wanted her memories back, right? She wanted her memory of young Cable when he was a baby. Okay. And so that tie-in issue, you wind up seeing Jean Grey just hand over those memories. It wasn't even there was this cheap ass battle. And Jean Grey says, well, if that's what you wanted, then here, Madeline, you can have this. And she's like, I remember everything. I remember the dirty diapers, the farts. And she literally says that. And they're like, okay, well, now you got to, fix this and make Limbo go away. And she's like, okay. And it continues right off of that. And she basically tells Ben from there on out, she got what she wanted. And it was just like, it's such a shallow book and such a shallow event.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. It's so bad.
And my problem with that, I didn't read the X-Men book either. And if you didn't read that opening page of this issue, there's no explanation whatsoever.
It feels like it's from a different series, which it was. So it's just like, and I thought it was just because I wasn't reading the regular X-Men books. So that's what I took it as, is like, I'm not reading X-Men. So, obviously this character is connected to X-Men, but I guess
just that. Yeah. It's just the Dark Web one.
But it's like, there's no point honestly, for Madeline and Ben to truly team up. They never really team up. They're just there. And Ben Reilly never really fights Peter at all.
Remember when Venom was in this series too? Like, where did he go?
Well, he's in his own little world now. Whatever it is, fighting Bedlam or fighting his son or whatever it is.
This has become a 90s Liefeld book where characters just pop in just completely out of nowhere and randomly and just say, I'm here, fight me, now I'm gone.
There's no fight, though. There's no fighting in this entire thing. All you got to see is Spider-Man fight some demons.
And which is such a shame, too, because the artwork is actually really good for this book. Like, I really like the art for this book.
I like Ed McGuinness's artwork, but even for this particular issue, out of all of them, I don't like, because it doesn't fit the tone of the book. So I made the comparison on this on my when I did my review on this book. I like, if you're going to do something like a Limbo, something that has demons,
darker.
It needs to be darker, more detailed, something like a Spawn book.
But surprisingly enough, this is a comedic book because of the Rick Rapp character.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. You are right about that. But they try to make Ben Reilly this evil, demonic, like King Chasm character, and he looks like a little dork in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing, though. The build up to this event, if you want to call it a build up, didn't like give any indication that this was going to be a humor thing whatsoever. I don't think. And then when we get into it and all the, the demon mailboxes and all this stuff, and it's just like, okay, this is weird. And it just keeps getting more and more bizarre as it goes on. And not in a good way. But anyway. Somebody said, you popped it up earlier, Kat, about Murder World not to be taken seriously. Actually, I would disagree. Right. It's a very serious story.
More serious than this.
It's just all the superheroes are not real because it's an arcade murder world, but it is serious. People are dying left and right.
That story is way better than Dark Web.
Oh, absolutely.
Night and day.
So much.
Like, Kat would even enjoy that way better than this Spider-Man.
And book. I read the first two of Murder World and I didn't even love it, but it's better than Spider-Man. I do want to read Unca B's comment here. I'm hoping Summer Symbiotes is better. I just don't, and I don't want to be like cynical about it, but I'm just like, I don't want to be excited for an event because Dark Web, I was genuinely like kind of looking forward to it because we haven't really had a big
good.
And also it's just like again, there's some build up and I was like, oh, this is what the series has been all about. That's really cool. And we haven't had like a big Spider-Man event in a while. So, and also with the symbiotes, they have an event every 2 weeks. So I'm just like, how can I be excited?
Yeah, I mean, we just went through King in Black not that long ago. I don't know that I'm excited about another symbiote event, but we'll see.
I don't think it's a very big event, and I don't,
I think it is though. They have that timeline stuff going on.
There's a lot of it though too that has to deal with like more like it's almost like a Spider-Verse type of thing too. So
okay,
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm done with Spider-Verse.
I was about to say that's not encouraging, Mike.
Yeah. All right. So thanks guys for watching. We got almost 50 viewers on my end, at least that I see.
And there's 52 before. So
yeah. So appreciate it. Like I said, we will be talking about the DC stuff once we get through the comic books. So hopefully you guys will stay with us through the duration of the comics. We always have fun talking about them. So hopefully you will join that conversation. Is it possible that the Dark Web series was to be Zeb Wells or even Marvel editorial take on their version of Spider-Man Clone Saga? And if so, what is the meaning of this point? I think it was an editorial event.
I think every event that Spider-Man does is an editorial event. I don't think that I don't want to say there's a Spider-Man writer. I'm sure Zeb Wells puts a lot into it. I'm not in the office, but it just seems like every single writer has this vision and you could kind of see the vision in the beginning. And then for some reason that vision gets a little sidetracked. And I think that's why Nick Spencer's run turned into what it was. And I feel like that's why this run's turning into what it is. Like, why is every single time, no matter the writer, it really does not matter who the writer is. It always feels like the same book. And it has to be editorial at this point.
Now, we have the finale is tomorrow, right?
Yeah. I've had it in my
Then-
top 3 most anticipated until I read this issue and I took it off.
Then we have I think issues 19 and 20. It's
Yeah.
written
Black
by
Cat.
Joe Kelly.
Okay.
And Terry Dotson does the artwork, and that's the Black Cat team up story, Peter and Black
Okay.
Cat.
I hope
Well,
it's
that
It'll
could
be
be good.
really
Yeah.
interesting to see how that turns out.
I do
And we're
usually,
getting the MJ stuff in March.
yeah, I do usually like Joe Kelly Spider-Man stories, and I
Mhm.
like Terry Dotson art.
Terry
So we'll
Dotson
see.
does a great Black Cat too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I'm really excited for. But then you got some crappy like JR cover art on there though.
You know, if the cover is not art I love, that's okay for me. But the
always
interiors
been
are
divided.
better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move forward to we did JSA 2. I'm probably pretty sure we all like this book. If I had my guess, Infernal Girl Red issue 1.
It was
What'd
really
you guys
solid. This is how you should release books like this, because this was originally a Kickstarter book. And it's a graphic novel. So they released it as a graphic novel, it's written as a graphic novel. And I guess the big question is, how do you make graphic novels kind of find another life? And I feel like, once again, Kyle Higgins kind of hits the ground running, because obviously this is not his book, but it's part of the Radiant Black universe. And they released it as a kind of this 60-page giant issue. And I think there's a few issues to kind of make up the graphic novel. That way, people that go to the comic book store and maybe not want to pick up a whole full graphic novel will read this. And again, it finds another life while it still has the graphic novel storytelling. And I think that's what succeeded here. I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. The characters were fun. Art was good. Did it blow my mind? No. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is like the best book I've ever read in my life. But it was fun. And that's sometimes all you're really looking for in a comic.
I thought it had a decent setup, right? It gave you the introduction of who
Mystery.
the characters were. It gave you the city, which they're staying in. It gave you a little bit about the mom. It gave you a little bit about the character. It set things up. It left you with a great cliffhanger. I thought it was perfect. I mean, I don't think it was perfect. I think it was, like you said, a way to introduce a comic book to somebody, to get you into the character, to be like, you know what? I am going to check out issue 2, you know? And I like the cliffhanger at the end, how, of course, like, yeah, I don't want to be this superhero. I just want to be this kid, you know, that goes to college, basically. And it leaves you kind of hanging like, was the mom the original Infernal Girl Red? Was she the superhero to begin with? And that's why she knows so much about the character.
Yeah, either she was or she was close to them. It has to be one of those. And you kind of get that foreshadowing at the beginning too. You can kind of tell that she's got some kind of connection to her, not beyond just reporting about her.
Right. Exactly.
I agree with everything you both said. I do think that it did take a little longer than I would have liked to get to.
It's a graphic novel.
Right. And if they had broken this up into single issues, that first issue would have been like, you know, it wouldn't have been enough. So it was smart to do it this way, to do the double size issue or triple size, whatever. But I enjoyed it, you know, for you know, as it was, and the storytelling it was, but it felt like it took a little bit too long to get to the meat of it for me. But I mean, I'm definitely hooked. I'm definitely continuing on. It's gorgeous. I mean, beautiful artwork, beautiful coloring. And you know, I love this universe. So I'm definitely connected to the character. And I love like that she doesn't want it. And that's a twist. I like that. So I want to see where that goes too. So.
Yeah.
It's also an easy book to get through, because sometimes when you have those 60-page books, it's like, oh no, it's 60 pages. It's going to take me a while. But the dialogue's really easy to read. It's very YA, honestly. Like, you could probably get this to like, you know, a teenager, like 13 or 14-year-old, and they'll get through it pretty quickly too. So it's not a hard book to read.
It didn't bog you down.
No. Case in point, this
just appreciated. I felt like the pacing of it was nice.
Yeah, case in point, I read this right before we came on, and I was I was scared to read it because I was like, I didn't realize, like, I left like all my big books. I read Action today, I read Last Ronin, I read this, and I'm like, oh my God, all these books are so long. I'm gonna get through all this.
Action took me a while to read, especially like
I read it in 2 sittings. But with this, I was like, oh, and now I got to get through this. And then I started reading. I'm like, oh, well, I'm done. And I've still got like half an hour, so I'm good.
That's awesome. All right. So cool. Glad you guys liked it. I'm looking forward to the next issue whenever that comes out. All right. So now we're moving on to number 4. Brant, what was your number 4?
Let's go with Exterminators, number 5.
This is a fun ending.
It's a fun ending. It's a fun book, and I enjoy it. I enjoyed the whole experience. Jubilee using powers in a way that I've never seen her before, and just the jokes about it afterwards, and how cool she thought it was to look like a baby doll, and all this stuff that they were joking that she looked like. And I just love the irreverence in this book, and just the comical bent to it that you don't always get with these characters, especially with Laura. And yeah, I just had fun with it, honestly. So
this is a good example of how to like do an action book, because it's like, look, this book doesn't have a lot of substance. This whole issue is just her getting back at her boyfriend or her ex-boyfriend.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's just funny. These, like you said, the character interactions just work, and I feel like it's something you shouldn't miss. I think look, it's the only Marvel book. I'm the only X-Men book I'm currently reading, and now I guess I'm not reading any X-Men books again. But it just felt, especially if you're tired of Krakoa, I think you'll very much enjoy this book. It just feels like a breath of fresh air.
It's one of those books that I didn't know I was missing or needed, and then I read it and it's like, yeah, I needed this in my life right now. That's just some good fun.
It was just there for me.
Okay.
I like I said, I liked the first 3 issues of it, and I felt like once that 3rd issue was done, I felt like the story needed to be done, and I just didn't think it needed to continue. I don't know. For me, I was just like, all right. I think it just ran its course for me. I think that's what happened, you know?
I thought this issue made sense, though. I thought like at first, like issue 4 is like, where are they going to take it? But then because she went up against a boyfriend, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense of how they would end that.
Right. Yeah, I was just like, whatever. It's just one of those things for me, I guess. I don't know. It's just like it reminds me almost of like Deadpool humor. It's just like, even though
I don't think it was quite that.
But no, that's what I'm about to say, though. I'm not saying it was that way. Like it wasn't that extreme. But for me, sometimes, I don't know, a certain tone of a book goes the way that it goes. Sometimes I like it at first a lot. And then I find myself getting bored with it. And that's the example that I'm using. Not that it's anywhere
I get it.
To that, you know? Like even the most recent issue of Deadpool, Brant, I meant to say, because when did it come out? Was it last week?
I think it was last week.
And we just never talked about it?
We did not talk about it.
Yeah. So because it wasn't as good. And I feel like now it's kind of starting to run like how Exterminators was to me.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So that's what I mean by it, right? So I just got tired of it.
No, I get that. I had fun with it. But I agree about issue 4.
Listen, I think it had its moments. I think at times it was funny. I liked how it was outside of the box. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely give it that. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous. The characters look great in it. And I like them, again, pushing the envelope there. It just, I just got tired of it. That's all. So that was yours, right?
Uncle B said he's upset that Mrs. Marvel wasn't in it.
Miss Marvel should have been in it.
Oh, God. So are we at Cats number 4?
Yeah.
I think so. And mine was Inferno Girl Red. So we talked about it.
Okay. Mine was, this was another book that I was like, is it really number 4? Maybe it is, but I was like, okay. It was All Out Avengers issue 5.
I actually like this issue a lot
because it surprised me at the end, right? So it had Spider-Man in it, which was cool. And you're kind of led to believe like whose mind is being messed with. Is it Spider-Man's mind? Is it the Avengers' mind? Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy in this? And then you find out the character who's been manipulating all this time in the first 4 issues and you find out it's the Beyonder from freaking Secret Wars 2 at the end. And I'm like, I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either.
You know, out of all characters. So I thought that was kind of cool.
And I love that it was Cap that figured it out.
Yes.
You don't read this, right, Kat?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so
there's books.
This is good though. It's completely different. It's not connected to any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
There at the end, Captain America's like, I know you're there. I know you're watching us. I know you're listening. And he's just like talking to the reader, and then at the last page, he's like pointing at the reader saying, I'm coming for you, Beyonder. And it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because you didn't expect it. You didn't see it. So, but it was. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was the best. It's the best Avengers book that's out there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like really a real Avengers book.
Right. It's fun, and it's like action packed, but not like that Spider-Man book. It's not like just wall to wall action. There's story there too.
Yes.
And they're all being manipulated, and they're getting time erased from everything. And it turned out like all of them were being manipulated in the story. So it was cool because you really didn't know who to trust. It was like, is Spider-Man, like you said, is Spider-Man, is it the Avengers?
Right. It's messing with your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah. Really good art too, I think.
Yeah, I think Greg Land's doing a great job on that book. Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so let's move forward now. Darkwing Duck. So I had a feeling that Kat would definitely not read this.
No, especially after Gargoyles. I'm like,
it's better than Gargoyles.
I don't think it's her time anyway,
Right.
I
watched it as a kid, but
did you?
I wasn't like, because we had reruns. I mean,
yeah.
Actually, let me see when it came out. Darkwing Duck came out in
93.
Okay, so it was a little bit before me, but I've definitely seen the show.
When was it?
91. It started.
91. Okay.
Yeah. So a little bit before my time, but
Gotcha.
like the Toon Disney had it on all the time. I liked it as a kid. It wasn't like I liked the theme song, but the show is just it was fine. So I'm like, I don't think I have to pick up this comic again, especially after Gargoyles.
But Darkwing knows the night.
I
love that song.
Again, good theme song.
I think if you watched this when you were a kid and you saw this brings back a lot of nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And it's a multi-generational comic.
Yeah.
However, it was exactly the way I remembered it. I mean, the artwork was the same and everything else. However, for me, I just was not into it, and I can feel like this is good for if I wanted, like, say, my kids to read it and be like, here you go. This is what I read or watched on TV when I was a kid. You can check this out. This is good for a younger audience as well. But for me personally, like, I just couldn't get into it. I just felt like, again, I was just reading a much younger kids comic.
Well, I mean, it's definitely geared towards kids.
Yeah.
I felt kind of similar, but I did enjoy the issue, and I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I read it. Mm-hmm. It was nostalgic. I felt like where Gargoyles failed miserably to be new reader friendly at all, or anything like that.
This was better than that.
Coherent. I felt like this did a decent job at kind of reintroducing all the characters, and they did a recap without recapping. So like he was getting a statue unveiled for him, and they invited people to tell stories, and he's the one that says, I hope they tell this story, I hope they tell that story, and then it ends up being a stupid story. But then one of his villains comes in and they have that whole thing. So it was like not really, it was just like on the edge of a recap, but it was enough to get you to know who Darkwing Duck is, who all the supporting characters are, one of his most notable villains, and that's it. And then you're out. So am I going to continue reading it? Probably not, but I did enjoy it, and I'm glad I have it. So
okay, good. I mean, I agree. I think like the way it was constructed, I thought it was better myself too. Yeah. Just not my thing really. And I remember when I was younger, when I watched it on TV, it really wasn't my thing back then either. So that's kind of like why
Oh, it was totally my thing back then. I mean, it was a comical Batman. You
Yeah,
know, it was
right.
so good. I enjoyed it quite a bit back then.
I
But
got
Gargoyles.
Oh, real
Oh,
quick, let me get the super chat.
yeah.
I really enjoy your show and your worthy videos. I'm an independent comic creator. I was wondering if I can send over some issues. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Frank, if you want to send me the issues, I have my email in the description box below. In my other videos. So if you want to check it out on there, you can do that. I forgot it's not in this one. It would be in the other videos. So if you want to do that, more than happy to check them out for you. All right.
Well,
So
what were you gonna say about Gargoyles, Brent?
I was just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, Gargoyles. You had to have watched the entire series recently to be able to follow anything that was going on.
Very recently, like yesterday.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or have a photographic memory. I don't know.
Be Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So now we are moving on to Lazarus Planet.
I'm so pissed off at this book. You know why? Because I have to read Lazarus Planet to fucking continue my to read Mary Marvel. And I'm so upset because I bought this book thinking it was just going to be her story. It'll be done and we can just see where she's going to go.
Why would you think that though? After
we told you the last one. They were
because I didn't read the last one.
But we told you they were all going to be anthology things.
But I didn't know this one was going to do that to me. I thought at least it would end. I thought at least it was going to be like a end story because some of them in here are like going to like some of the stories here had like one part. I didn't know it was gonna be like 5 parts. And I'm like,
gotcha.
Because especially because this is not continuing like next week. It continues like 2 weeks from now. I'm like, all right, so now next week I'm so upset because I don't like this book. And I think that I like Mary's story enough. Obviously, I really, really like Mary's actual series. So yeah, I don't like this book and I'm upset.
I understand that. I like the Mary story. I'm trying to remember what other stories were in this one.
Exactly. There's a Wonder Woman story, I think, in here.
Yeah, this one was better than the other one. I thought
there was a second story in here that I remember liking, but I can't remember now what it is.
There's an Aquaman story, I think.
That was the first story.
That was the first one, and then it's Wonder Woman. There's a Mary Marvel story. I don't remember what the other one was.
I think I might have liked the Wonder Woman a little bit. I didn't love it. She was training somebody, right? And then like she got taken down by the dead.
Yeah. The doors opened up and I can't remember the freaking story though that I liked. It was.
Was there a fourth one?
Find a description. I think there was. What is this one called again? Gods. All right, let's see. We once were gods. Okay,
yeah,
so the stories are Can't Themyscira. Oh, Martian Manhunter is the other one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
I like that one because this was the one where this kid absorbed the powers of. He could take away the pain from people.
Yeah,
and somehow
I did like that one too.
He absorbed the people's memories that had to deal with Doomsday, and somehow Doomsday can be reincarnated in all these different ways. And then Martian Manhunter tried to stop it, and he was becoming Doomsday. The kid absorbed his pain back, and then he became this, like this stone. And so now Superman and Martian Manhunter have this essence of this boy that could possibly be another Doomsday in the future.
Right.
I thought that was actually a good story.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. And I thought the Wonder Woman one was solid too. I really liked the Mary Marvel one or Shazam one, whatever.
Well, it got Shazam back in the
that was good.
Comics again. So that made sense, right? So
the Aquaman one, I can't even remember what happened in that one.
I can't remember half of them. Again, Martian Manhunter.
It was like a dude that they got from the ocean that I guess Aquaman picked him up and he was going to bring him back to the trench. That's all he was.
Oh, the trench transformed.
Yeah.
Okay, to actual people. That's right.
And then he was like eating people in the little house and stuff. Like
I thought the art was good in that one, but I was kind of disappointed that they transformed the trench. I'm like, man, you took these vicious villains that I liked and did okay. That's different. Sure.
The Serenity didn't like the Martian Manhunter one at all.
I didn't either. I remember I was like,
I didn't expect Kat to even buy this book.
Mary.
I knew she would.
Thought that it was just a Mary Marvel story.
Well,
like we've been talking about these things forever.
Well, no, I thought that it was going to end there. Like, I thought it was going to be like just one story. Exactly. It's like I knew it was going to be an anthology, but I didn't know it was continuing into other anthologies, which pisses me off. I'm like, why can you just end it?
That's funny. Yeah. All right, let's go forward now. So let's talk about Thor issue 30.
I don't know where this book's going.
There was a lot.
I haven't known where this is going for a while.
There is a lot that's going on in this book, and I made the mistake of reading this at nighttime. Oh. So like I'm like this. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, it's like 10 minutes later. Somehow the book is still in my hand, and I'm like, wait a second. Thor's looking through some door. What's in this door? And like, I have no idea what's in this thing. And he has this little baby that like talks and stuff like that, like a real human. I was so confused by the end of this book, but I don't know. It looks like it's leading into something big though, going forward.
I never really liked Runa's character, and because I didn't like her arc in any of the Valkyrie stuff, I'm just not interested in her part here.
So this I feel like place like I'm sorry to interrupt. Mm-hmm. So is this
connected
to the Valkyrie story?
Yeah, I mean not like tremendously, but it's definitely like it's the same writer. It definitely connects the dots from that from like Runa's story. But yeah,
it's showing who she was before she got captured into whatever that was.
Yeah. But I feel like they're stalling. They're just stalling until Donny Cates comes back.
Yeah, it was a little bit all over the place, and I was a little confused because I couldn't remember what happened last issue either. I've been lost in this book for a bit. It's kind of lost its way, I think, a little bit, or at least it's lost me, maybe.
It was actually lower for me than Spider-Man. Spider-Man was like my second worst, and this is my lowest because I was just, like you said, confused. I didn't love the art, so at least I like the art for Spider-Man.
I when you guys
enjoyed this one, Spider-Man.
A complete writer change too.
Yeah,
and I love this writer. I think she's usually really great. I just think it's the Torin who's done all the Valkyrie stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I love her writing, but I just feel like it's just like. Again, it's probably circumstances with the scheduling where Donny Cates had, was taking a little bit of a break. And it's like, all right, let's throw Torn into this for a couple issues.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know.
All right. That's what we have to say about that. Number 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you got, Kat, for number 3?
Mine was Exterminators. We already talked about it.
Brant?
Inferno Girl Red, so our 3s and 4s are switched, Kat.
Yeah.
My number 3 was Inferno Girl Red.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was quick.
That makes it easy. Next, the book I don't read, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
You really should be reading. This is a good issue.
It was a good issue. It's not my top 5.
Oh, it's in mine. It's in my top 5.
It's right outside, but yeah.
I really like this issue. I thought it was a great action issue. I mean, it's just them doing the Green Ranger arc, but with
Casey Jones.
Yeah, with Casey. But yeah, I liked it. It was a lot of fun for me. I like the character interactions, art. I mean, you can't say no to Dan Moore's art. So I just had a really good time with this one. But again, look, there's no 5-star books out here this week.
I mean, I had fun with it, and I enjoy the artwork as well. I mean, it's just beautiful. But like you said, it was the Green Ranger story with Casey, and just a little twist, and it was a lot of action, and I like moments in it. I thought it was good. It's like my number 6, so it's just outside, but. And, there was a moment where Splinter and Zordon connect and they're talking. So it was a lot of good moments.
Cliffhanger,
yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. So, yeah, just not quite as good as the first issue for me. So.
Oh, see, I didn't love the first issue because it was too much TMNT for me. So this one was more Power Rangers.
Maybe that's why I liked it more. So.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about our number 2 because we talked about Murder World Wolverine already. So what was your number 2, Brant?
JSA. So we already talked about it.
What about you, Kat?
Mine was Saga. I see Comic Tobiax. Are you doing the comic book review tomorrow, Comic Uno? Yes, I am. I had to skip 2 weeks because I was away. But I will be back tomorrow. So comic book reviews will be back.
My number 2, believe it or not, was Sins of Sinister, issue 1.
Wow.
Yep.
That's surprising.
Yep. Listen, it was the type of week it was, right? No. All right. Next, we are moving on to, I guess, our number 1.
Yes.
Just like that. So, Kat, what was your number 1 at the end of the day?
Mine was Power Rangers TMNT.
Brant?
All Out Avengers. I actually really like that book.
Oh, okay. Mine was Murder World Wolverine.
It's so interesting. A lot of weeks because there's always that standout book, we'll tend to have like the same top 1, or it's like in our number 2. And this week it was all over the place for us.
Yep, absolutely.
They're all action books, though. All 3 of ours were pure action.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which is strange because I usually don't like the pure action books.
We needed it this week. Is what it was.
Exactly.
So I guess we're gonna dive into the news, right?
Yes, but before that, I know that both me and Brian have Kickstarters going on, so we'll plug those first, and then we'll go in. I also want to plug that I am part of Zest World, which has some cool comics on there. Actually, Blood Tree, that comes out in Image tomorrow, is part of Zest World. There's awesome people like Joel Jones, Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, David Marquez. Slice Life also is there. That is about an anime character comes to life, falls in love with a high school cheerleader. That is my book. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because we actually have a sponsored story by Zest World. If you like all-out action stories like the ones we mentioned this week, it's all about fun anime action. So hopefully you guys can go check it out. I'll put the link in. It's free to subscribe, and you catch up with Slice of Life. It's all free, so go check it out. And let me go to Hairology now. So I also have a Kickstarter launching on Monday, and it's all about hair. And also Brant's in it. So Brant is in the anthology, and we're covering all different types of stories: cancer, natural hair, transitioning, balding. So hopefully you guys could go check that out.
The cool thing is about that, though, like when we first started this show, like years and years ago, we always had this thing about hair.
Yeah,
that's true. That is true. Now we're doing it.
Funny.
We always talked about each other's hair for some dumb reason, and then we talked about hair in the comic books.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Pat's thing would be like, I don't know what's going on with this person's hair in this comic book. It just doesn't look right. Like it was so funny, man.
Yeah,
so hair's important.
I forgot all about that. Yeah,
me too. I never thought about that. So here's the connection. Brent has the story. We're talking about hair, and I think what's cool about the book too is that it's not like one particular thing. I think a lot of times when this topic is talked about, it's usually like one side of hair. It's really everything. There's even like a post-apocalyptic story. Like there's different genres in there. There's like an action story, like an anime story. So I think anyone could find something to like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So you also have a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So this one's live until Friday. This is our next Legendary Lands puzzle, Oz puzzle. If you like puzzles and you like Wizard of Oz, check that out. We also have Wonderland and Neverland. There's a little piece of Wonderland and Neverland. And we've got diamond paintings and comic books and stuff. So go check that out. I'll drop the link in the comments. And then next week, let me stop that one and share the other one. That shared the same thing. Sorry about that. I grabbed the wrong. There we go. We are launching this one. So one ends, and we launched the comic book In the Land of the Dragon, number 1 through 2, cyberpunk fantasy comic. So go check that out as well, and I'll drop the link for that one in the comments too.
Awesome. Yeah, go check out all those Kickstarters. Go check out some awesome comics. And let's talk about DC. So there's a lot of DC news. I want to start with the movies, start with the James Gunn thing, because that's obviously the big news from this week. And we're gonna go one by one. There was a video, but obviously sites have broken it down, and we're gonna talk about what we're excited for, if we're excited. So first up, what we know is that we're gonna get the Shazam movie, then we're gonna get the Flash movie. Because they got to reboot the universe. Then Blue Beetle, which is supposedly very, not connected. I think then Aquaman, and then Superman.
Then it was Aquaman, yeah.
And now we're going to talk about Superman Legacy. Yep. So James Gunn's writing it. He's going to be, I think, directing it too. And this is going to be released in 2025. So it's honestly like kind of soon for something they haven't filmed or cast.
Haven't even finished writing it, yeah.
Haven't finished writing. It's kind of crazy how soon that's coming out. This is probably the one I'm most excited for, which is weird to say, because it's a Superman movie. We've seen so many, but I don't know if we've really seen like a pure Superman movie in a very long time. So I'm curious to see what he's, James Gunn's going to do, like where, who's going to be cast. Obviously, I'm just very curious about this movie, and obviously because James Gunn's so heavily involved too.
Yeah, and like being called Legacy makes you think it's branching off into other characters too, so that's going to be interesting to see where the focus actually is.
I'm excited for this too. I mean, like Kat said, we haven't had a Superman like real movie for a very long time that people appreciated. And I know like we're not through everything yet, but just I watched that video that James Gunn put out there, and that man has a plan. Like, clearly has a direction, and it is amazing on how much he's thought of in the short amount of time that he has had this job. Now, whether all of it will be good or not, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, is still to be determined. But it is interesting to see him lay down what his plans are. And it made me go, wow, as a comic fan, and, I'm not a huge DC guy, but this does get me excited for the DC side of things when it comes to their movies once again, which you want. You want that. Yeah,
I agree. And that comment that you popped up there, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. That first movie was like a 5-star movie for me. I absolutely love that movie.
I was shocked to me and Phil were going over like my friends finally joined Letterboxd. I was like, oh, finally, it's such a fun website. And we were going down like lists, and we were going down. Originally, somehow we got down to the MCU, and I was like, oh, let's see. Like, I've only not seen one of them, and Phil's like, I'm gonna be really disappointed which ones I haven't seen. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you haven't. Which ones haven't you seen? He hadn't seen Iron Man. He hadn't seen Winter Soldier. He hadn't seen Guardians of the Galaxy, all of them. I was like, what is wrong with you?
Some of the best movies, so much. Yeah. Wow.
I was like, I at least said you should at least Iron Man and Guardians. Like the other ones that he named, I was like, all right, maybe you don't have to watch those. But at least watch him with the first Iron Man.
Iron Man is classic. Like that's the movie that kicked it all off. Yeah.
I was shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have called him out like that. I'm so sorry.
Why didn't you call me out on the show, Kat?
He's gonna be like, I deserved it. But yeah, let's get into the next thing, which is honestly, I was pretty shocked by this one. The Authority is getting their own movie, and I guess it's interesting. I mean, obviously you have what's it called? What's their names? The guys, Superman and Moon. What's their names? The ones from the Authority, the light guy, the Superman type character, and the Batman type character.
The Midnighter and Apollo, I think, right?
Apollo. They're gay, so that's gonna be fun.
Like I know nothing about the Authority, so people are gonna be like, "What are you talking, Mike? What's wrong with you?" Like I don't know anything.
No, they're occult teams. I don't think
it's Wildstorm.
Right?
Yeah.
I never read the original stuff. I read like when they first came into the DCU and they tried to relaunch their series with Martian Manhunter. I read like 2 issues, so I don't know anything about them either.
This is kind of, I mean, maybe this is going to be a benefit. Again, it kind of goes to the Guardians aspect. No one knew who Guardians was, and then people knew who they were. So maybe there's like no, anticipation. It's like, all right, let's see what this is about. And again, it's also like a bend on characters you already know, so that could be a lot of fun. Like The Boys does very well. But yeah, this is the one I'm a little weary on, because I'm like, I don't know anything about Wildstorm. DC Comics has so many times tried to bring Wildstorm back and has never succeeded. So it's like, is this gonna really be a mainstream book? But again, I think the idea of having like the diversity angle could be interesting. Could be a little different for superhero stuff. So
I mean, you mentioned so go ahead.
No, go
I'm
on.
sorry.
No,
I was just gonna say, you mentioned The Boys and also Watchmen, and anytime you mess with those archetypes and you can look at Invincible too, it tends to do well. So and they were a darker version of the Justice League, so it could work. We I don't know.
I mean, if there's a guy that can do it, it would be him, because like Kat said, you said it already. He has this thing about bringing obscure characters out there and getting the viewer to know who they are. So this could be the next like Guardians of the Galaxy for all we know.
Yeah, and as far as I know, the original The Authority series was critically acclaimed. I know a lot of people that really enjoyed it. I just wasn't one of them. I never got into it. I was gonna say I lost my train of thought. It doesn't matter. It wasn't important. Oh, no, I know what I was going to say. One of the articles said that this was somehow connected to Superman Legacy. And I don't know how they're going to make that correlation. But that'll be interesting.
Maybe like multiverses.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Let me see. Authority property, I think Zack Snyder should have directed. I don't think Snyder's going to be directing anything, but I guess we'll see. I don't think so.
But he did Watchmen. He did his Justice League project.
And I like Watchmen. He did Justice League. He did his Authority for sure. He did his own version.
This next one, though, I think could be huge.
It could be, but did we also see what it was basing itself on? So the next one is Batman and Brave and the Bold, which is Batman and Damian Wayne, which could definitely be interesting. The next generation Batman, entire Bat family, which definitely could be cool, which includes, like I said, includes Damian, but it's based on Grant Morrison's run, and that makes me nervous. I don't love Grant.
I did like Grant Morrison's run on this.
I didn't like Grant Morrison's Damian. I did not like his Damian at all.
It was interesting hearing James Gunn say Damian was his favorite Robin.
Yeah.
Okay. That's different. I've never heard anybody say that ever. But it's his Robin was a little punk. He was a little jerk. But I did like the run too. So I'm
also curious to see if this is going to be obviously connected to the previous Batman movie. So like, is this going to be Pattinson returning as Batman as a whole different character?
That we don't know. It just says the next generation of Batman and the entire. So maybe it's going to be somebody different.
He made the mention that anything, and he actually said that in the video too. He said stuff like the Batman and other stuff is going to be labeled. Yeah, the Joker is going to be labeled Elseworlds.
Yes.
Okay,
so I think it is going to be a different casting altogether.
Which I'd be happy for, because if it's this type of story, I don't want to see the gritty Batman that we saw for that movie. Like it has to be a little lighter than that.
Yeah.
Moving on to Booster Gold. They've been trying to get this off that slate for a long time, and this is going to be a TV show, which was originally supposed to be a TV show. I don't care about Booster Gold, so this did not excite me. I was just like, whatever.
I love the concept of Booster Gold. In practice, it's never sold me on it. And they've been trying this since Smallville to do something with Booster Gold, and it just
have been trying.
I just don't see it succeeding. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope it's good.
For Booster Gold, for me, I don't know a lot about the character. I just know he is kind of goofy. You know what I'm saying? I've just never read enough about him. But listen, I would be willing to watch it. This is a show, right? That's what they said?
Yeah, it's going to be
so, yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to watch it, too, if it gets me more into a character. So that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, the whole premise is he's from the future, uses future gadgets to become a celebrity in the present.
Gotcha.
That's his whole gimmick.
Like, the only thing I recently read him in, wasn't he in what was it called? Heroes in Crisis book? Wasn't he in that? Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. I was looking up Supergirl too, because in this article it said it was a TV show, but I know it's a movie, so just reconfirming. But we're gonna talk about Swamp Thing first, which is probably the one I'm surprisingly most excited for, because I feel like this thing that Marvel hasn't tackled. They tried to do horror with Doctor Strange. It didn't work, and it wasn't really a horror movie.
No.
This can be a horror movie, which I love horror, as you guys know. And horror is doing really well in theaters right now. So this is the one I'm most excited for, weirdly enough, is Swamp Thing.
I'm never excited for Swamp Thing. So.
I would want to see this. Now, Marvel did Werewolf by Night, and that was really well. Did you ever watch that, Kat, or no?
I still haven't seen it.
So again, you talk about horror. Like, you should watch that, because the way it was made, it was an old school horror film, and Man-Thing is actually in that, and he's awesome in that show, and everything about that show is actually really good. It's 40 minutes of your time, and you'll be done with it. That's all it is, and I'm excited about what they can do here with Swamp Thing. This could be something very special. I mean, you can go and introduce all kinds of stuff with this. Going forward. So
the green, definitely be interesting.
The red, you can introduce all those things. Who knows? You could get Poison Ivy from this. I mean, you can get anything from this. So I would love to see this. And then you never know, like, whose Swamp Thing would they tackle? Like, would it be
Alan Moore's, or would it be
Alan Moore, even Scott Snyder's from New 52? Like, that one was pretty good. I mean, so you never know what they can go with, or they could take it a totally different direction too, because it's a movie. So whatever. But this could be cool.
So the next thing, also very weary on, probably the most disappointing news, is the Supergirl movie. Because look, I love Supergirl. We just had the show, and this is based on the least Supergirl story ever written. And again, nothing against Tom King, but in my opinion, that just wasn't a Supergirl story. It just felt like anything else Tom King wrote, and just like, here, I guess I'll put Supergirl in this. It's just so weird. And one thing I really noticed with a lot of the slate, they're all recent stories. And when I say recent, like in the last 2 years that they're making these movies about, which I find very interesting, especially because in the state of what DC's been at. I'm not excited for this. Obviously, they'll give it a shot. Maybe they'll change it up a bit. But I've never liked Supergirl in space. I just don't find it interesting. Now, I will say at least it'll be different from the show. So kudos on that. But yeah, I'm not excited for this one.
Did you read? I mean, I'd never read that Supergirl.
Yeah, I read the first 2 issues for that one.
Did you?
I read it. Yeah. Did not love it.
Did you read it, Bran, or no?
I don't remember if I did.
Remember? Okay, so if you remember that she was drunk in a bar, and she was depressed.
Okay, I must have read the first issue. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Did she have a sword?
She did.
Yeah.
She did? Because I remember this picture that is on the site, and she's holding it up, right? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think did she not have her powers too? Something like that. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Also obviously didn't finish her run.
She must not have, because she grows up on a chunk of Krypton. So she would be under the red sun, not the yellow.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we're going to have to see and wait, right?
Or not.
It might get canceled. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they'll be like, well, we're gonna scratch that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's not gonna happen. The other one is the Green Lantern TV show, which has always been trying to come out. Now they're just retooling it. It's gonna be a Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan TV show instead. I think it was a Kyle Rayner, maybe Guy Gardner. It was definitely not them. Which obviously makes sense. These are the two popular mainstream lanterns, even if John's not my favorite lantern. But it makes sense. I'm interested, but again, this has been something that they've been trying to get off the ground. It's not exciting news, because we've known this news for such a long time that this show was supposed to come out.
It's also interesting that it's taking place on Earth and it's a detective story, is how they described it. And it's like, really? That's a little weird way to go with 2 Green Lantern characters, but okay.
We'll see. I mean, at least they're coming out with it, and I'll check it out. Right? Like,
I'll check it out, but it's weird. I don't know.
All you can do is just hope, right?
Yeah.
You never know. It could surprise you. Like The Last of Us. Like, you never know. It could be a good show.
I still have not watched past the first episode. I'm behind
already, huh?
Yeah, I know.
I heard the 3rd episode was really good. I'm gonna probably watch it when it ends.
I haven't gotten to the 3rd episode yet.
I heard that was good.
Who was it? The writer of Rose Gallery was tweeting about it and saying she was dust after watching that. It was just so emotional.
Everyone's been saying that. Yeah, everyone's been saying it's a really good one. And what's his face? Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like one of the main characters in that episode. All right, moving on to Paradise Lost, which is also a TV show. Again, they've been trying to get a Wonder Woman TV show off the ground for a while. It's supposed to be Games of Thrones-like, but it's Wonder Woman. And again, based on a book that came out not that long ago, Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman Historia, which I don't think any of us read. I'm not a fan of Themyscira when it's just Themyscira, especially when it's the past. So I don't know if this is my thing. And the other projects that they announced was so much more exciting to me, like Yara Flor. I was like, oh, that could be a really exciting show. Like anything with the Wonder Girls, I think would have been exciting. But this is like, really? Gal Gadot, you're just like no to her, and now you're making a Themyscira show?
I will say though, in the era that we're getting stuff like Rings of Power and the Game of a Thrones spinoff and stuff like that, it kind of makes sense to do a show like that.
But have they missed the boat? Like those shows, like they
it's possible.
Are those shows I don't want to say popular because again, Rings of Power people were disappointed with.
I know. That's what it's kind of a mixed bag right now because I think we're seeing a shift to other types of stories.
Again, Last of Us, more mystery shows like White Lotus. Also another mystery show. I heard Poker Face. People were talking about that one now. So, yeah. All right, let's get into Creature Commandos, which is also going to be written by James Gunn. I don't know anything about these characters, which I guess is the point.
He said this is an animated show, but I remember when he was in this video, he said that this would become in the future a live action thing with the same actors and stuff.
Yeah, he was talking about that throughout all of the DC film and animation stuff, that you'd have the same voice actors playing the same actual actors and all this stuff and back and forth. And I thought that was interesting because, we have seen that a little bit before, but not on that scale.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that either.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check like Peacemaker. I didn't know it was gonna be as good of a show as it was. So, and I don't care about Peacemaker as a character, but I really love that show.
Speaking of which,
exactly, which is the spinoff of Peacemaker, and that's Waller, which had already been announced. And again, it's very interesting to see James Gunn cherry pick what he wants to keep in this universe. But I mean, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller was a perfect casting. And again, Peacemaker is just such a freaking good show. That I'm pretty excited for the spinoff. But we have to wait for season 2 of Peacemaker for this show. And I'm like, but I just want season 2 of Peacemaker.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited about that too. I mean, I think she's a cool character. It's just one of those things. You'll have to wait and see. And hopefully the show will be good. But overall, like I talked about, like I like how he actually has a plan and it's well thought of. There's some kind of continuity there where before it was like nothing.
I would say, but my disappointment of the announcements was just how lukewarm I felt after them. Like I wasn't excited for anything. I was like, okay, these are announcements I kind of expected. There wasn't anything where I'm like, whoa, you just blew my mind that just happened. It was like, yeah, they were planning that 10 years ago. I guess they're following through with it.
I was just excited about the vision, I think. Not so much the properties, but yeah, I get that.
I mean, and who's to say that there might not be other movies that
he said it wasn't the whole slate
that pop out. This is just right now. So obviously he's got to get through this Superman thing, and then where it goes from here, then he could insert other movies. But
they got to remake Batgirl at that point. I feel like that would actually make, and I know like people are saying it wasn't a great movie, but if they remade it and made it well,
who's to say though, like Batgirl doesn't show up in this Batman and Damian movie, right? And then that's how you get your spin-off for Batgirl to have her own movie, right?
That was another thing he said in the video too, was that was the beginning of the Bat family.
Right.
Which is smart to do, obviously, because surprisingly, I've never seen that in the movies, which is wild because that's literally the whole foundation of Batman comic books. All right, well, let's get into the Shazam trailer that came out. I didn't watch it just because I always kind of have a rule for myself that I only watch the first trailers of these things because I just want to see the movie at that point. But you guys did see it.
It was really good trailer. They're fighting dragons and other monsters and all kinds of stuff. It gets heavy, a little bit more serious, a lot more action. I really enjoyed it. It got me.
I liked it too. I just don't know. I'm curious though how the overall movie will be. Like that's my concern about it. Like I felt like I've watched a lot of the movie already, especially after watching that trailer. And so I felt like almost, man, maybe I shouldn't have watched it.
Exactly.
It's like I don't know how deep this plot is going to be. That's what I'm very curious about. So I really
even matter.
Right. I really loved the first movie and the introduction. And now you get the family, which is really cool. But how deep is that plot going to be? I don't know. James Gunn is like Shazam's in his little corner of the DC universe. Like it's kind of like, are we going to see Shazam again? So I don't know. That's another thing that we're not too sure of yet. But I'm excited about the movie. I think it's going to be definitely entertaining for sure.
All right, well, let's move into The Last of Us gets renewed with such big viewership. It was 22 million for like the first episode, which is like Game of Thrones. Yeah, because of the video game and then actually having a video game adaptation be good. So people have never like watched the video game. I mean, never played the video game. They're newly finding this great story. And then people like play the video game. It seems like they're very close to the game, but they're like changing enough, like kind of like Walking Dead. It honestly very much feels like The Walking Dead in a lot of ways of the success of it, which honestly, like when this first came out, I wasn't even gonna watch it, but now just because it's just getting so much buzz, I'm like, I kind of want to see it when it's wrapped. I don't want to have to wait every week for it, but I'm like, when it's wrapped, I want to like see why people have been enjoying it so much.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've only watched the first episode so far, but that episode was so powerful for me. It was a lot of emotional punch, great storytelling, great acting, and for me, again, it was the best Pedro Pascal thing I've seen. So.
The second episode was emotional too. I really liked it. And now based off of what people are saying here, that third episode is really well done too. And I never played the video game. I heard of it, but never played it. And then I kept on seeing commercials for, the show when it came out. I was like, maybe I'll get to it. You know what I'm saying? And then I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then I watched that second episode. I watched those two episodes back to back. I'm like, this is really good. So I'm like, I'm hooked. And, I said this could be the next, best apocalyptic show since The Walking Dead. And it does have that feel. Will it last as long? I don't know. Does it need to last that long? Probably not. But popularity wise, it's hitting on all those cylinders right now. So I'm happy for it. I'm happy that it's doing well.
So the last media news here is that Dead Day adaptation got axed. That's definitely sad. I was like looking forward to it, but that's kind of the biz,
That's a good comic, man.
It was.
So hopefully, it gets picked up somewhere else. And, probably a lot of people in this chat probably don't even know what that comic was.
No, it was an Aftershock book. Ryan Parrott, he wrote it. But it's a solid book that definitely I think had a chance to be a show. Yeah. So, and they got picked up for a series too. So just like it, things happen, man.
Yeah.
Definitely sucks in that regard. All right, let's get into the comic news. I am gonna try saving the DC news for last. Well, we can't talk about Lois Lane getting a promotion because that's not part of the big DC news.
It's about damn time, Miss Lois Lane.
Yeah, honestly, like the what I was going to comment on this one, I'm just surprised they haven't done it before. I'm like, oh, really? And that's why I'm excited for Williamson. I think he's going to do a lot of things that you're like, oh, that's a no-brainer, because he knows these characters very well. Again, very similar to Robin. I'm very excited for this book.
Perry has a stroke, so it makes sense that she's the next one to take over, right?
It does. And I mean, I kind of get wanting to keep her as a reporter because that's kind of her whole shtick, but it is a natural progression for the character. So
right.
And it's a different story because again, like being like, what type of stories are you going to publish? Like, what, I just think there's a lot of potential for this role. Again, we've seen the reporter stuff so often already.
And she hasn't always agreed with Perry's judgment on these kind of things. So it'll be interesting.
Let's get into some Marvel news. So the new X-Men poll, can you believe it's 3 years and they're still doing it? But I didn't know who the lineup was. I'm like, fuck this poll. Then I saw the lineup. I'm like, Dazzler's in it?
Yeah, I knew.
Hell yeah to this poll.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, I voted Dazzler.
I knew that for sure.
Of course, man. But the list here, and you guys could tell us what you voted for, but it was Cannonball, Dazzler, Frenzy, Jubilee, Juggernaut, and Prodigy. I will say I obviously voted for Dazzler, but I won't be broken if Dazzler doesn't get chosen because then I don't have to read X-Men. So that's my thoughts.
Who did you go for, Brent?
Cannonball.
I knew you did. I knew you
of course.
Yep. You know who I picked?
Juggernaut.
Jubilee.
You're right. Juggernaut.
It was Juggernaut. That's what I thought.
Because
Jubilee would have been great.
It's I thought about it hard. Like it was like Dazzler, but I was like, we recently saw her in that other X-Men book not too long ago.
Yeah.
And then obviously she was just in Exterminators. Jubilee, same thing. And then I was like, well, and then the Frenzy guy, I was like, I don't even know who the hell Frenzy is. Like, I don't even know that person really. And then I was like, but wouldn't it be different to have Juggernaut on an X-Men team? I'm like, that would be kind of cool, So I was like, I would want to see how he interacts with all these other characters on there. So that's why I picked him. I was just trying to go with something different, and obviously that person's taking place of Havoc, right? Because Havoc was on the team.
Is that
and he decided to leave.
Okay. I honestly didn't know why they were doing this. I was like, wait a minute, don't they
Havoc decided to leave in the X-Men book in Dark Web.
Oh.
Right? Or no, it was in the X-Men book where he decided to leave.
I don't
remember that? Do you not? And the Children of the Vault? He was like, he's like, oh, I'll always be an X-Men or whatever it is. And he decided to leave. Or maybe that was in Dark Web.
I don't remember.
I'm freaking confused because there's so many of them.
If he left in Dark Web, then that's just lame. But I don't remember that. Maybe
it was Dark Web.
Right over that. Yeah.
I don't know. He left in one of those 2 books. So, and obviously this new person is taking place of him. So whoever it is.
We do have a comment from Kaio. There seems to be no interaction tonight between the speakers and commenters.
I was laughing about that.
I will say that we've had a lot of news and stuff to cover. So we've been trying to interact as much as we can. In the beginning of the show, we interacted a lot. And we always try to pull up your comments and stuff. But it was a really tight show tonight.
Yeah. I was just laughing because I know we did early on. That we were
so maybe it came in a little later for this one. All right, let's get into the bigger DC news here. So Joshua Williamson is renewing his exclusive deal with DC, which is a big deal because he and Tom Taylor are like, the kind of 2 A-listers right now there. And supposedly they made a very promising deal for him. And one of the biggest parts for that was like he could still do indie comics. It was just like, yeah, I can do my indie comics and I'll work for DC. So it's pretty much saying I am exclusive to DC. Exactly. You literally can't work for Marvel. So it's a great contract. Like it's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll work for you.
It's like the exclusive.
Yeah. Because it seems like he could really do any other place. But great. You know, I really love his writing. So
yeah, I mean, I do too, but that's the only thing I was going to comment on that. It's like, it's just he can't work at Marvel, which I mean makes sense, but it was funny.
I mean, he does good stuff, so I'm excited for it.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's good that he has a job. And honestly, he needs to be there because there's not that many like top guys, I feel like, at DC these days. So they would be not smart in letting him go.
No, they definitely need Williamson, especially because, again, he did all that event building and he had a great critical run with Robin. He has Green Arrow coming up. I think it makes sense.
Of course.
All right, moving on to it looks like we're getting some teases for what's going to come. We'll talk about the things that actually did get announced, but Hawk People looks like they're getting another run, and there could be a new Wonder Woman series. Both, to me, are a little uninteresting. Just because Hawk People I've never been interested in. And then Wonder Woman, I'll always want to love, but I can't tell you a run that I have left of Wonder Woman. So if they can't do like the first one, do we need a second series? Or why don't we have a Wonder Girl series? I'd rather have Yara or Donna or just have that instead.
Yeah, you notice how you haven't like seen like Yara barely at all. She was like a little bit in the Dark Crisis event, but you haven't seen her at all.
Yeah. I mean, and she was such a strong character when she was introduced too, and I feel like they just haven't done much with her.
Well, because of the TV show being canned.
Yeah, I know, but I mean that doesn't mean that the comic version has to die because that was a really strong. It's just I don't know. There was that whole event that none of us liked, so we didn't read it. She was in that.
Oh, that Wonder Woman event.
Yeah.
That was not great.
Got a question there, Kat. When Comic Toby says, when can I get some Comic Uno books on my LCS?
Hopefully there's stuff happening. I will say right now, the biggest focus is Kickstarter. So if you want to check out my books, that's the best place to get it, especially sooner and later. But yeah, we're always in the talks trying to get stuff in stores in a smart way. Because for people, inside baseball here, when I make a Kickstarter, I get the full profit. So if I sell a book, I get 100% of that profit because I made it. When you give it to a comic book store, you are giving them 50% of your revenue. So when it's not a smart idea a lot of the times, depending on the book, like if I'm going to sell like my superhero book, like Fall Like Daughter in stores and it wasn't with a publisher, it profit margin wise just doesn't make sense, which is why, there's a lot of reasons why indie creators don't do it, but why I personally haven't ventured in that as much as maybe people would like, because it's harder to make money that way. But that doesn't mean, I'll say never. I think it just depends on the deal and what book I'd be doing that for. So maybe one day, but the best way to support is Kickstarter, and Webtoon you can read for free. So that's a great, and Zestworld I mentioned. Zestworld's a really great place to be on too.
I know nobody asked me anything, but
I want to hear your opinion too, Brandon.
I agree with everything you said. On some of our campaigns, we've offered retailer tiers, which are discounted. So that's one way that we've gotten our stuff in. But other than that, yeah, it's hard because you don't really make anything. It's more about awareness. So
and this goes to people that are being published too. Like you would think like, oh, it's only the small indies. Like, no, there's like people that are like at Image Comics having the same problem.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the 50-50 split, which makes sense because retailers have to make money too. So
yeah, and if you cut in the distributor, then it's 60-40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And also printing the comic, because you're printing your own comic, and when you pitch the image and all that, like you have to pay the artist, you have to pay like the colorists and letters. So there's always back end stuff as well, which is why Kickstarter has been so popular for people. A Comic Toby asked, Brant, you write comics? Yeah, you do. And also, again, mention Hairology. Brant does have a story in Hairology.
I do, which is launching on Monday. So go check that out. Yeah, I write a couple of series. LastNumberPress.com is our company. We also publish some stuff from other writers. Check that out.
We also got a comment from Serenity. It says, because you're not reading the Wonder Woman books, Mike, Yara is around. So, okay, so that's good. I mean, it's good that she is around. It looks like she's in the monthly book. So that's a good thing. I just liked when she had her own book because I thought it was actually good.
Yeah, me too.
So, all right. So let's keep going with that news, Kat.
All right. So moving on, we have Night Terrors is going to be an event. I don't think we know much about it yet, but it is a Batman event, of course. And we'll see what happens. It looks like there's a new character. He kind of looks like a Sandman character, if I'm being honest. I have no expectations.
That's what I thought too. I actually thought it was a Sandman event instead of a night.
That was speculation. Event. I read that article. It was speculation. I think they're just speculating because the only way they even know what it's called is because they took an obscured logo into Photoshop and like brightened it up to where you can make out some of the letters. So they don't even know that's actually what it's called. They're just assuming based on what they could see.
Right.
So yeah, it's obviously anything with that spelling of night is going to have to do with Batman anyway. So, but a horror Batman story could be interesting if that's where it goes. But
hey, why not?
I agree. Even though I feel like James Tynion's Batman was so hard driven, just because that's what he likes to write.
That's true. Yeah.
Moving on to Titans getting its own book. I didn't get to talk about Nightwing issue 100. And I honestly don't remember too much about it, if I'm being honest. I remember liking it in the moment.
We didn't either when we talked about it.
I mean, there's a bunch of people that got broken out in jail, and Nightwing has this moment with the Justice League. They ask him to be in charge of the Justice League.
Yeah.
And he had to think about it. And then he decided, well, what better way to knock down the prison, make a new team, new Titans Tower, and have the Titans be the Justice League for now. So that's basically the issue in a nutshell. So, and that's where we get the new Titans book until the Justice League returns, which looks like it's going to be by the end of the year.
Yeah, which, we definitely see coming. But yeah, so Tom Taylor is writing Titans and Nicola Scott is doing art, and they're both Australian. But I love Nicola Scott's art.
Yeah.
She's very much known for drawing Nightwing in a specific way. But
are you talking about his butt?
Yeah. His butt is the shining star in her. Yes. And especially in her art style.
Right.
But they're also good friends, so I'm very curious about this series. I have my reservations just because they've been using Tom Taylor so much, and to a point where I think he's being spread thin. But I'll never say no to more Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Just as long as the story progresses and something happens, I'm fine with it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, agreed.
Need to read the book upside down. No, that was a good joke. All right, next up is I want to talk about Cyborg. Just because we haven't read a great Cyborg book, but I feel like this somewhat has potential because it feels a little bit more grounded. It feels like it's focusing on the football stuff. And then also I thought it was cool that they have the milestone. One of the people that were part of the milestone initiative thing is writing it. So I was like, all right, I might give this one a shot. I want to love Cyborg. And also the Titans being such a pinpoint of the DC universe right now. Curious to see what it's going to be about.
I don't have interest in this book. I don't know who can write a successful Cyborg book. I just don't feel like Cyborg has enough around him to have it be a ongoing series personally. So I'm not really excited about it, but never know. I'll try out the first issue. Could surprise you, right? If I want to read Cyborg, I'm going to read him in Titans, right? So that's the way I look at it.
All right, well, let's move on to our last news piece, and that is the new Green Lantern series is coming out in May. Finally, it's been a while. But what's interesting about this is that we have Jeremy Adams, who was actually part of the Flashpoint Beyond creative team. And so is the artist. But Jeremy Adams also is, I believe, been writing
The
Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously we've been enjoying this current arc. We've been loving the Flash series, so very curious to see what he's going to end up doing. I'm excited. I see Carol on a cover. It looks like Sinestro is going to be involved a lot. I hope it's very much like Jeff Johns' run. It's like I very much miss that tone for Green Lantern.
The great thing about this is Marco Tamaki was supposed to write this book, and it got changed. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, they changed it, and I could not be happier because I think they did the right thing by picking a writer who has hit it out of the park with a series, and they're obviously giving him another book. But I don't think now he's going to stay on Flash because of this. I think someone else is going to be taking over the Flash.
That's a shame. He's been writing it for a long time, so that definitely makes sense too. Like you have to end things so that way, end on a high.
I'm not sure who's taking over Flash, but
maybe Mariko. That could be interesting.
Who?
Mariko
Tamaki.
I don't want Tamaki to write that detective comic book was so crappy.
But sometimes I do think she's a good writer in certain series. I don't know if that would be Flash, but I also don't know if it'd be Green Lantern. But who else would write the Flash? Who's available?
There's got to be somebody.
That's a good question.
Maybe Phillips. Stephanie Phillips has been getting a lot of because of Grimm and Harley Quinn.
There's got to be somebody out there. It sucks because now I just got into the Flash and the writer's going to be leaving it.
Yeah,
it's like cats like back in the day, like Venom. She got Venom. No,
always got Venom.
And then the writer changes or it sucks or whatever it is. But yeah, man, that sucks. Here's a comment here, real quick. They keep attempting to make Cyborg a major character independent of the Titans.
We also got another comment from them, Mark Waid on the Flash. But then Mark Waid's writing Shazam, and it's just like, why keep using the same writers? I honestly would like to see. Mark Waid's doing a lot. I would like to see them poach a little bit more from like the indie comics that are doing well. Again, like get Ryan Parrott, or I think he's doing a small DC book. He announced on Twitter. Get like the writer from Rogues Gallery. Like poach some of these people that have been doing well in indie books.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The guy from Specs, David, like he's written some great books. He wrote Specs, I Liked Rain. Like he's written some really great indie books. So like again, poach some people, but yeah. So overall thoughts on this new direction or new titles for DC. I can't say any of them were like whoa. They're doing that title, but I'm glad there's more titles. Like there's you have Green Lantern back, you have Green Arrow back.
I'm honestly excited for the Green Lantern book with Jeremy Adams writing.
I
think it'll be really solid. Yeah.
Me too. I mean, I feel like it's been a very long time since we had a good Green Lantern book that focuses on on the lanterns. I mean, I know this is probably Hal Jordan book more than anything, but I just feel like it's needed. He's a major character and he's been missing for a long time. And I think
TV show coming out.
And I just think with Adams writing, it's like you can make it feel like a more grounded type of book at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that. That's probably the biggest thing. Titans, I'm excited for. I have my reserves about it because, for me, you guys know how I felt about the Son of Kal-El book and how Nightwing has great moments and Nightwing is going to be in this book too. But it's just like the story progression just doesn't always seem to work for me when it comes to, Tom Taylor, and I'm curious to see what he's going to do, though, with all the characters in the book. So it could be something completely different when he has all these characters to play with.
For sure. Well, that's all the news. So we're gonna move on to most anticipated.
Yeah, let's do it. So, sorry, I was on the wrong screen. Let's go through our list and then we'll dive into these books. So, Kat, you want to start?
Sure. All right. Number 3 was Rogue's Son, issue 10. Number 2 was Blood Tree, issue 1, and then number 1 is Bloodline, Daughter of Blade.
A lot of blood, man.
A lot of
That
blood.
is a lot of blood. All right, Mike, what are your 3?
I got Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 3. I got Dark Web Finale, only because it's freaking ending. So that's why I'm highly anticipating that it's ending. So that's why it's there. And then the Flash 1 Minute War special.
All right. So mine are Rogue Son as well. Radiant Black number 21. And also the Flash 1 Minute War special. So let's talk about Rogue Son real quick, Kat. I know this is like your favorite Massiverse book, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's as consistent. Well, I think Radiant Black does bigger things, but this is actually the more consistent book for me.
Okay.
This arc's been okay, but I know the last one was about like him going to prom and getting denied, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But I'm always interested in anticipating this book. It always is a fun ride.
Yeah, and I think this one he's got to get help from his mom or something, right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We haven't seen her in a while.
Right. So that'll be interesting for sure.
I feel like this book is more, like you said, like this one's seems more grounded and self-contained, where Radiant Black seems more like world or outer space, like Kat said, much bigger something that's going to happen in that book.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree with that. But there's just something about Radiant Black, talking about that one, that just I love. I look forward to this book every single issue it comes out. Like I said, it's my new Invincible. I don't know what it is about the book. I just love it. So
it's fun. I like it.
It is fun. It is a lot of fun. All right, Blood Tree. That's the new. Who is it?
Peter J. Tomasi.
Yeah, Tomasi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a Westworld book, so I'm curious to see how that's gonna translate into for Image Comics.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so you can read it ahead if you like issue 1. You could go to Zestworld and read more.
Nice.
But it also it seems like a horror, almost slasher book where these two detectives have to like chase a boogeyman. It's very much my vibe. So I was like, all right, I'm interested in this. This could be a promising book.
You said Image released it?
Yeah, Image.
Yeah,
I think it'll be cool.
I'll have to see if I put it down on my to buy list. I'm not sure if I did or not.
Yeah. And Miles Morales, I know you and I like those first 2 issues, Mike. So hopefully this one continues. It just continues to get better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited. I want to see more of that villain, and in the direction that it goes.
Right.
And I think it's promising so far, which is a lot to say for, compared to some of these last couple volumes from Miles Morales.
Yeah. Are you dropping a Cat?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This issue.
So did you have anything else to add about Dark Web Finale, Mike? Because I got nothing.
Listen, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's one of those things where what are going to be the ramifications of this? Like, absolutely nothing. I think the only person that is going to have any type of ramification is going to be Ben.
Yeah.
Something is going to happen with him, whether it's good or bad, or he gets casted to limbo and he's staying in there. I don't know. Obviously, the other ramification is going to be what happens to Hallows Eve, because then she gets her spin-off book.
It feels like this whole event was just to give us Hallows Eve. That's what it feels like to me right now.
You know what? I mean, as a character, I like her. I think she's kind of cool.
But we didn't need a whole event to get her.
She's getting her own series too, or like mini series.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, Bloodline, Daughter of Blade. I don't know that I'm getting this.
I'm interested just because it took like 5 years. That's why I'm so excited. And again, do I think this will be the best book? Probably not of the week. Am I anticipating it? Yeah. It's been 5 years since this has been announced. And they're like, why are they doing it now? What is it going to be? So I'm just curious about what this is going to be about.
Yeah. It's weird. We're seeing more Blade lately. I wonder if they're gearing up to do something.
Well, they're doing the movie. They have the
Are
MCU
they doing a movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess I forgot about that. Well, that makes sense.
I'm getting it too. I just I have no expectations of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that leaves us with the Flash 1 Minute War special. We're all enjoying the event so far. I really liked the last issue of the Flash, so I'm hyped for this.
Yeah.
The only reason I didn't put it on my list is that I think it's an anthology issue. So it's going to you're seeing a lot of different characters. I'm like, I might really like one story, but I might not like 3 of them. So that's the only reason it wasn't on my list. Or else it might have been.
Yeah, and it could be like different points of view of what everybody's going through.
Right.
That might be okay for me as long as it deals with the initial event of what's going on.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So I'm going to read as much Flash as I can now while this guy's still on it. So,
right.
Because I finally decided to pick up Flash because I hear nothing but good things. And here we go. Sucks, man. I'm so angry. All right. So that's it. That's
right?
it. Yeah. All right. Oh, God. Empire Comics says, Mike, you're going to hate Venom issue 16.
Ooh, that's always promising.
I ranted so hard on the last issue of Venom because of Miss Marvel in it, and she was just interfered where she.
Or Kamala.
But I know you didn't read this.
No, I haven't read it.
It was actually halfway decent issue, and then she's like a little peeping Tom. She's not even supposed to be in this book, and she's on a ledge just listening in, and she's like, uh-oh, there's Venom, and when there's Venom, that means trouble, so I gotta interfere. And she goes and they start fucking battling and stuff like that, and she goes, you guys are not killing anybody on my watch. It was so freaking cheesy. It was so dumb.
Didn't she just recently team up with Dylan, though?
Yes, she did in the freaking in those.
But those Venom characters are trouble.
The Moon Knight, the Venom book.
Yeah,
and she was friends with them. They were in battle against that creature.
Right. So
obviously, Ram V did not do his homework and read that series that they most recently teamed up with. Right.
I feel so bad for Kamala. All she needs is her own book. She just doesn't need to be in this series.
Oh, God, it's so dumb. So yeah, I'm anxiously not awaiting that one. So yeah, but I guess that's it, guys. I think we're gonna close out the show. We had a long one today. Again, we apologize if we didn't take as many comments as usual. That's why we at least try to highlight them on the screen. But we had a ton of news to talk about.
And comics. It was crazy this week.
It was a very, very heavy show. But we do appreciate you guys very much for taking the time and writing everything and watching the whole entire show. So thank you so much. Real quick, we're going to do the spiel before we leave. If you guys love the show, please make sure you give it a thumbs up before you head out. On Comic Book Weekly YouTube channel and on Comic Book Corner 2.0. Hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss when this show actually goes live. And then obviously my videos on my channel. And then, of course, guys, subscribe to both. Don't forget to follow us on social, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of course, YouTube, not TikTok. And as always, guys, thank you so much. Brant's one day going to put a TikTok there just to put it on there. Guys, thank you
already
so
thinking
much.
about it.
This is when we wave and we say goodbye. Happy New Comic Book Day, everybody. We'll see you all next week.